what was that you researched that then you were like, oh, I'm actually living my research, and how did you respond?
I think before the books came out, I would have said what I just said. Money's not going to make you happier. But I would have said it, but there was part of my brain that was
but I wanted more money. Yeah.
And I think, and then when you experience it, I think for me, it was like, wow, that's really true. That's incredible. And to say that to someone who is still aspiring to gain some sort of net worth, I think just as I did, it's like, even if you believe that, you're like, yeah, but
it really does make you happy. Yeah.
And I think experiencing it is like, wow, that's actually pretty amazing. I mean, I bet you've had this experience too, right?
Yeah, I think it's more about like the thing that makes me happy is knowing like I worked really hard to create something. I overcame challenges. I put it out in the world. I overcame my fears. I, believed in myself, and I was able to alchemize and manifest an idea in my mind and actually take action to create something, and it added value to people.
Yeah.
And if it made me more money, then that's a cool little extra thing that I'm like, wow, that's nice. I can do more with it now. But it's really about the whole journey, I think, of like what I had to overcome to make something.
Yeah.
And thinking about, oh, it actually served another human being well. That's what I think about it.
It's the other thing that I had never experimented with that we just started to in any meaningful way is giving money away, which I'm kind of ashamed to say we really hadn't done in any meaningful sense until a year or two ago.
Really?
And doing it it's interesting. It feels great. And if you think like is buying myself a new watch, even a new car, is that going to increase my happiness? Maybe marginally. Is helping someone for whom this amount of money is meaningless to me, but life-changing to them. And then you just see, like, investing is all about like leverage and compounding. And you see the leverage of like 10 grand is going to do nothing for you, but 10 grand can utterly change this person's life
forever.
Then it's like, wow, that's a cool thing.
Yeah.
And I think there is, once you get to some level of material life, whatever it is, there, at least for, maybe not for everyone, but there is some, like, guilt's probably the wrong word, but it's just like, there's a lot of wrong going in the world, and like, do I need to like push up my ego a little more or help this person who really, really needs it?
Yeah.
So that's another thing where 3 years ago I would have said, oh, I bet that's the case. But then when you experience it, you're like, ooh, wow, that's interesting.
Why do you think most people, based on history and predictions in the future, why do you think most people will never get out of a scarcity mindset? Whether money is relative, I guess, but at least a scarcity mindset of creating abundance for themselves.
I think there's two things. One, if you are honest about history, the world is very fragile. And there's a lot, if you look at history, it's a constant chain of surprise and setback and disappointment and recession and bear market and pandemic. Now look, a ridiculous amount of progress baked in there, but that's not to say that, I always think every 10 years the world breaks on average. Once every 10 years, there's some event where you wake up and you're like, the world is not the same as it used to be. Everything's different now. September 11th was that, COVID was that. And historically, it's about once every 10 years.
Really?
And so when you have lived through a couple of those events, in my adult life, in your adult life, it's by and large been 9/11, the financial crisis, and COVID. Once you've lived through 2 or 3 of these events, I think it's very natural and healthy and accurate to say to yourself, the world is a dangerous place. And those are the big events, to say nothing that may have happened in your own life. You lose a friend, you get laid off, you get divorced. So I think that level of anxiety is actually pretty not only healthy, but accurate.
But how does someone break free of that to have more abundance and peace inside of them, knowing that there's going to be chaos around them unpredictably in the future?
To me, it's always been this idea, if you look just to focus on finances, save your money like a pessimist and invest your money like an optimist. Like, save your money with the idea that the world's really fragile and you might lose your job next week. You might get divorced next year. You might get cancer. We might have a recession. And by the way, in due course, one of those will happen to you, to everybody. Everybody is going to experience some version of something like that.
At some point.
At some point. And you have no idea when it's going to occur. You need to prepare for it to occur at any moment. But the most important but is, if you can endure that and survive those things, the rewards for those who stick around can be incredible.
Yes.
And so, like, I've been an investor for 20 years. I made my first investment in 2003. During that period, there has never been a single day in which you could not have pointed to 100 things going wrong in the world. And wrong in the stock market. Stocks are overvalued. The Fed is screwing up. Congress is a mess. Companies are going out of business. Every day you said that. And during that period, the stock market's up fourfold.
Right.
And I think that applies to a lot of it. It applies to your personal life, where in any given day, you and I were talking right before we recorded about some stresses I'm having in business, some stresses you're having in business. Every day is like that. But then you look at 10 years or 20 years, and for a lot of people, it's like, wow, the progress over that period is actually pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I don't know if this is accurate to even say, but my partner, we were driving in, it's either yesterday or this morning, I can't remember, but we were driving in this office building where we shoot this podcast. And the parking is so expensive here in Century City.